Hey there. So if you're a guitar player that is struggling to arrange music for guitar, here's 5 things that you could be doing that is slowing you down and making things a lot harder. Number 1 is not writing stuff down, okay? And I don't necessarily mean, writing stuff down on a piece of paper. I mean using software to, log what you're arranging as you're arranging it. So I actually used to do this. I used to not write stuff down. I would basically sit there with my guitar, I would be at my computer, and I'd pull up a song that I liked, whatever, Gerudo Valley from Ocarina of Time. And I would sit there and I would work on the very beginning of the piece, the first measure, and I would just try to figure it out, and I would try to figure out exactly how I wanted to do it, all at once, the melody, the bass, everything at once. And I would essentially try to memorize the thing as I went. And it sucked, okay? It was very slow and it sucked. It was inefficient. And I would if I didn't work on the arrangement within, 3 days, I would start to forget stuff. I used to think that writing stuff down would slow me down. That basically that act of having to put the note into the software, that would make the arranging process take way longer. And it actually might feel like this to you initially, but you actually save so much time in the long run by writing things down in the right way. Now, notice I say right way, okay? And that's because there's a whole spectrum of ways that people write stuff down, ranging from really great to like really, really bad and really inefficient. It goes from, clunky pen and paper, sitting there with each measure, scribbling down, what you think is going to be the best, and then having to erase that or write over it because you figured out a better way for something, or all the way to using like super efficient software like Guitar Pro and using that software in a really efficient, tried and true way so that you're eliminating redundancy and maximizing efficiency as you go through the arranging process. Man, dude, it sucks so much not having this aspect of your arranging process locked in, okay? Like if you're being willy-nilly, you're writing on paper, you're not writing stuff down at all, I feel for you, dude. It's going to suck. It's going to take a long time, and I do not wish that on anybody. There are so many parts of the process that are going to be a lot slower if you're not using software to write stuff down. Just as one thing, for example, note location. So that would be like where you are playing a particular pitch on your fretboard. And all guitarists know there's a lot of pitches can be played in multiple places on your fretboard. So when you're doing an arrangement, how do you know which one is best? Well, you don't. You have to just experiment with it. And the thing is that if you're using something like Guitar Pro, and as you're doing your arrangement, you're inputting the notes into the software, well, guess what? That information is now, it's like data, right? In a piece of software, which can so easily be manipulated. Okay, you can press a button and see exactly that pitch on whatever string you want. And it takes a lot of adjusting different notes to different strings to experiment enough to know that this position is actually the best position. And I already mentioned, just as a whole, remembering stuff, not needing to remember stuff and just go one measure at a time, and just you finish the first measure and then you forget about it. It's like it doesn't exist. Then you just focus on the second measure. That is so nice. It's so nice to have the process be linear like that, where you're stepping through it. The second issue is focusing too much on music theory because you think it's going to make you a better guitar arranger. Focusing on theory isn't inherently bad. You just want to make sure you are spending your time in a way that's going to actually get you further towards what you want to be as a musician. There's a bunch of different paths you can take as a musician. You could be a classical guitar player that just learns pieces. You just learn classical pieces. That's all you do. That's all you care about. You want to ultimately be a concert guitarist or whatever. In that case, really just learning pieces of music and focusing on technique and focusing on musicality is going to get you towards that goal, right? Or let's say you're somebody who wants to be an amazing, improviser, for example. Well, then music theory might be the most important thing to work on, I'm not sure. I'm not a good improviser, but I've heard it's important. Okay? So, if your goal is to be a really good guitar arranger, theory is just not going to get you there. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not. Alternatively, I would spend a lot of time working on my ear, specifically learning how to recognize pitches, okay? Pitch recognition, which is the ability to be able to pick out a single pitch amongst a mass of notes, a chord, and find that particular pitch. And then locate it on your fretboard. This is the core skill involved in guitar arranging. At least it has been for me and for like anybody I've seen do it at a really high level. Okay. Not only is time spent training your pitch recognition a good use of your time, I think it's actually the best use of your time if you're going to train your ear. Okay. If ear training is what you want to do, training pitch recognition freaking rules, man. It's like probably the most efficient thing you can do. Hey, let me just interrupt myself real quick and say that if you're somebody who wants to get super sick at solo guitar arranging, maybe you want to work with me personally, I actually give away my ear training app totally for free to people that book a call with me. Now, this is like a chill call. Basically, it's one-on-one. We see where you're at with arranging, where you want to go, what kind of songs you want to do. If it's a good fit, I'll ask you to join my program. If not, it's totally cool. You could even cancel the call if you want, and you'll still get the ear training app. Don't do that though. Don't cancel the call, dude. But there's a link down in the description if you want to check that out. There's a short explainer video. Give it a watch. See what you think. Okay, back to me. Number 3 is waiting to be ready. Okay, waiting to be ready before you start working on your guitar arranging. Actually, before you start making guitar arrangements. I've talked to several aspiring guitar arrangers that just don't feel like they're ready. They don't feel like they have the skills they need to actually start arranging. But the truth is that you can make arranging really hard or you can make it really simple depending on the source material that you're using. Saying that you're not ready is like the equivalent of saying, I need to have stronger muscles before I'm ready to go to the gym and start working out. It just doesn't make sense. Like, that's what you need to do to get better at the thing. You need to arrange to get better at arranging. So this is an easy one, okay? Just start trying to arrange. And choose easy stuff. Do guitar transcriptions, okay? Find some really simple guitar music and have that be the first arrangements that you do. That's actually how I got started. I downloaded all this crap from this old software called LimeWire, and I didn't know where to find the tabs for these pieces of music, and so I just sat there and figured them out by ear. And it took a long time. If I had had the tab, I would have used the tab, but I'm so glad I did that because it made me, I really think it contributed to making me into the guitar arranger I am today, and it gave me the confidence to know that, hey, given enough time and enough effort, I can actually figure this stuff out by ear. You're going to learn a lot by just doing arrangements and just struggling through it. And this brings me to my 4th point, okay? You might be working on stuff that's actually too hard for you. So I know it is important to do some arranging. Absolutely, definitely start. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. If you're working on something too hard for you, here's what's going to happen. You're gonna boot it up. You're going to be presented with a whole bunch of note information. It's going to be really hard for you to sift through the notes that are there, much less decide which notes you should choose for an effective guitar arrangement. You're not going to know, you'll be new at the whole process of choosing the right fingers, choosing the right note location. You'll probably end up doing the thing in a bad key, and then you'll find that the piece is completely unplayable because of the key, or perhaps the tuning is a tuning that's just totally inefficient for that particular piece of music, or whatever. There's about a million things that can go wrong. So when you choose something that's really, really hard, you're maximizing the problems that you're being presented with, and you're minimizing the chance of you actually getting to the finish line with the piece of music. And we want to maximize the chance of you getting to the finish line with the piece of music, okay? But again, being a beginner, like choosing some easy stuff, you might not feel like a hero or you're doing like the arrangements of your dreams, but you're going to be able to kind of like go through the process in a smoother, less agonizing way than if you were to choose something that's like really, really crazy big and difficult, some crazy big, orchestral piece with all these cluster chords or whatever. that's going to be a lot more difficult. So give yourself something kind of chill, something kind of easy, especially if you're a beginner, and you're going to be able to move through the entire process, seeing a piece, through from start to finish, starting with an MP3, and at the end of it, you've actually got something you can play. And make sure it's a guitar transcription. So it's best to start out with music that's just written for guitar. Okay, that's going to be, for beginners, the best source material for arranging. And number 5, dude, you just don't have a good process, man. Your process sucks, dude. You're going into it all willy-nilly, all right? So you might be implementing everything that I've mentioned so far, right? You're writing stuff down in a piece of software. You might be not focusing too much on music theory, and maybe you're like, let's say, using an app and you're training your ear. Maybe my app, okay? You are, not delaying until you're ready, right? You're actually like, you're doing guitar arrangements, and you're not doing arrangements that are too crazy difficult. You're not choosing songs that are like nuts, like too nuts for your level. But all of that stuff, you might be still trying to arrange, and if your process is bad, you're going to waste a hell of a lot of time doing things in an inefficient way. Guitar arranging is not easy, and there's really not a lot of people who are good at it, right? There's not a ton of people in the world that, have produced a bunch of educational knowledge and written books on guitar arranging. So if you want to level up with your guitar arranging, I have provided another link in the description, so you can book a call with me and I can give you some tips and maybe help you become the guitar arranger that you really, really want to be, so you don't waste a ton of time arranging with a really crappy process. You can start immediately doing things in a really efficient way, maximize the amount of arranging you can actually do, the amount of quality arrangements you make, and the speed and ease at which you do it. Okay, so if that sounds cool to you, book a call with me. But that's it, dude. Hopefully what I talked about here helps, and hopefully the ear training helps, and hopefully you book a call with me if you want to get sick at arranging. All right, bud, bye.